Okay. Let's go ahead.
Ready for me to share?
No, I'm not
Okay,
ready
sorry.
for you to share. Let's go ahead and go live, please. Up. No, let's. Hold on. Things are not working correctly. All right, hello everyone. Welcome to another Wolfram Language Design Review. This time, part of our incremental language development series. And I guess we are first talking about frame ticks and previous discussion about tick direction.
Yeah, so last time we talked a bit about how tick direction by default points in. It's nice to be able to point it out, and really what you want is more fine control over the different parameters for ticks. So Brett has prototyped some of this. There are some examples in the notebook, but he can also show things live.
Okay, so wait a minute. How is this making the ticks go outside?
So if you, so that
where's
is
the option that says to do that?
that is the frame ticks replacement at the very end. This is the old discussion we had, but if you go,
Yes,
yeah.
that is doing it by hand using /dot.
Okay,
Yes.
so what is?
So if you open those bullet points, there are examples within each. But
okay, I don't understand. What is this? We're not doing this by default.
No.
What the hell is this?
It won't be doing that by default. It just
So
is
why are you
doing it
showing this?
at that moment.
Okay, so I don't understand what this is because this is not the correct thing for this input to give.
Right.
Right?
That should look like normal frame ticks.
Okay, so it's just wrong.
Right. So this is using frame ticks goes to an association.
But that's not the right idea. I mean, the whole point of using an association is we're using string names for these things.
We
If we're
can make
using
them string
options
names.
like this, what's that?
I mean, we can make them string names.
No. If they're options like this, we can just have them as options. There's no reason to put them in an association here. I'm saying, I mean, if we really want to have named things for all of this, which I think is a mistake, if we really want to have sort of a standard name, tick style, etc., then then just have those as symbols. Just add them to the list of options for all the graphics functions. Am I making sense? I don't think
Yes,
that's an
but
obviously
no.
stupid thing to do, but the whole point of an association, which is what we're doing in many other places, is to have string names here.
Well, we already have a tick style, right?
Right. I mean, those are all existing system symbols as options of axis object.
And they're not supported in plot, for example.
Correct.
Oh, that's just silly. Just silly. I mean, I don't understand the point of this. We should just have it be something you can just use, tick style or whatever, along with frame, along with a bunch of other things.
I think
what if
some of
you
the
want to have
benefit,
multiple ticks in the frame and elsewhere?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the next bullet point where you can control individual sides is a use case where, the syntax for doing left, right, top, bottom in the existing styling parameters is confusing and someone remembers, but I never remember which is top, which is bottom, which is left, which is right. And being able to use that specification and then have all the parameters for whatever you want, I find to be a convenient design.
I agree. However, it's inconsistent with everything else we're doing. So, I mean, yes, this is fine, but I mean, we could perfectly, there doesn't need to be even an association here. It could just be frame ticks is and then a list of rules.
Well, I think the point is that frame ticks as a list has, well, I suppose if it's consistently a list of rules, well, can the current frame tick specification be a list of rules, or is it always a list of lists?
I don't think so. I think frame ticks is a very, very old thing.
Right, and we're not changing the old behavior.
Well, it's only 1991. Could have been older than that. It's probably older than a few people in this meeting, at least.
but certainly not all of us.
Indeed, indeed, quite so. I mean, this stuff is just unusable.
Right. I mean, and that is all the things mashed into single things. And this is splitting it out into named named
Yeah,
properties,
that's right.
basically.
That's fine. But I think this outer association is not the okay. So here, elsewhere where we're using associations, the whole point is there are string names that are pretty local to that thing. And I'm wondering whether in essentially graphics options in general, there may be many, many options. And it may be a desirable thing to do. Let's look at axis object, right?
Yep. And so it has like a dozen.
Okay, then you know what? These should just become options to all the graphics functions. And I agree that having them be able to be sub-cased for left, right, whatever it is a good thing. But this is, and I think we discussed this when you introduced axis object. These things need to be available directly in the top level functions. So if all you want to set,
Well, then
is-
what's the point of axis object?
Well, I mean,
Because it's
axis object is useful on its own.
yeah, it's completely useful on its own because it's something that's a disembodied axis, and
I see. In addition to all the existing axes,
Right. I mean,
perhaps.
and it's used, for example, in the newer visualization functions that have multiple axes, like ternary list plot. It's what's used to build the axes in frame for that function.
Right. And it's a graphics primitive, right?
Yes.
yeah, it's a completely useful thing. Now, okay.
I mean, I guess the question then becomes, what about priorities? If we make these top level options, right, then we have
I don't even remember we had a frame text style. Sandra on that live stream is pointing this out. I didn't even remember it existed.
Yeah, it probably dates
Yeah.
to 91.
Yeah,
I don't think it's that old.
it's pretty old.
Gosh, that's a very weak kind. I mean, honestly, we should retire this thing because it's a very weak. It's a very weak way of setting properties of the frame ticks. Because there's other properties you might want to set.
Such as,
well, I mean, it doesn't care.
Right. I mean, you can change the font size. You can, right, and any sort of styling option that you want, you can put there.
I mean, replace
Okay.
blue by the string title.
I didn't know you could do that. All these years.
Well, I mean, that may date to
this
like
is very
V6
modern.
or something.
This is very modern.
Okay, V6. Okay. I was going to say this is at least V6. I didn't know if it was older than V6. So.
Okay.
Right.
Right. When, yeah. And, I guess that makes sense when we got off of PostScript graphics. This made more sense.
Yes. Yeah, probably.
Right. Okay. So.
Right. I mean, my concern with like especially frame, the frame things is a lot of the frame stuff is, if you have tick style or whatever, one of the axis object options is an option to everything. Then two things. One, it gets duplicated because ticks and frame ticks are different things in the system. And so we'd have to have like ticks direction and frame ticks direction and all those sorts of things. And especially in the case of the frame, we already have things that support the start at the bottom, go clockwise, list specification, and the 2x2.
Wait. Where are you going with this? What's the
I'm
point?
going toward generating things that are difficult to understand what exactly they're doing.
No, cut to the chase. We need a
What's the
proposal for what this should actually do, right? So what we've got, first point is we've got a bunch of nice options in Access Object.
Yes.
We want to support those in
for axes and frames.
Yes, right. So that's first point. Okay. Next point, addressing a particular axis, a particular frame side, and so on. How do we do that? Right. Those, to my knowledge, those are the two things we're discussing. Is there something else we're discussing?
I think those are the two main things.
Okay.
Now,
My question, yeah, go ahead.
Well, just looking at this, what if you also want to specify the actual ticks? You've made it into an association, and now you have sort of pure styling directives, but there's nothing here about.
I mean, there's that tick positions property in the middle there.
What does it do?
So that says do
Just,
approximately 20
tick
positions.
Okay, but that's fine. But can you give a list of ticks?
You can give a list of ticks. It requires an extra level of list than would be nice, because the first level of list is taken as a min max step size.
This is the wrong name for this option. Tick positions should be the list of positions. This is the wrong name.
See, well, I have a different objection to the name, is that I assumed that tick positions was, the physical positioning relative to the axis or some such, because normally it's just ticks, right? That says, or frame ticks that tells you where the ticks actually are.
Well, tick locations would be better, I think, maybe, but I'm not sure. I mean, even that, look, that's a way of escaping from a bad design here. When was this put in?
13-ish?
12.3.
Yeah.
How did I let this go? It's not right. This is not right. It's not the right specification. If the default is a number, it shouldn't be it's kind of like an iterator, right? This structure is kind of like an iterator.
Kind of, yes.
So this doesn't have a notion of major and minor like normal.
It does.
Okay,
It's the first note.
Oh, tick position spec 1 for the ith collection of ticks on the axis. I don't understand how that corresponds to major and minor.
No, I have no idea. What's that? What does it mean?
Convention.
What do you mean? What do you mean? It doesn't say it here. This is really bad documentation. Please fix it.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, come on. None of us will know what that means. I don't know. It doesn't know. Nobody else is going to know. I don't know. I have no idea what that means.
And are you saying here that there can be more than major and minor, that there can be major and minor and even more minor-ish or some such? Okay.
Or you could have major and lesser major and then minor.
How does it know what the relative sizes of those ticks should be?
There is a parameter for the length. There's a parameter for whether to include labels or not. There is, but those are each separate options of the axis object.
Okay. What units is that in? Is that in the user coordinates here? Is that in the coordinates along this axis or what?
Well, it can't be along the axis, right?
I expect that would have been scaled, but what it's doing, I'm not sure.
Yes, well, I guess the reason you let this in is that everything's marked experimental, Stephen.
Well, I think it's going to get killed because this doesn't even say what units it's in. Automatic, but what does this mean? Scaled length S. What does that mean? How could that possibly be right from what we just saw? Come on, we can do better. All right, so my question is, okay, how much detailed control does there need to be of other things? We've got ticks, that's a thing. We've got, like, for example, here's an example, plot range padding. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I would like that to have a left arrow, whatever it is, right arrow, whatever it is. See what I'm saying? That's another place where I've needed that a bunch of times. I don't even know how to do it. I just give up. I just reset.
Right. And I think.
Well, how do you do it?
Right now it's the 2x2 thing, but it's completely possible to generalize it to, use left, right, type syntax.
Yeah. But I think the way to do that is, I think that should be a list of rules. I do not see a reason to use an association for that. We might accept an association. It's super confusing. Whoever wrote this documentation had their brain disconnected. Come on, guys. Look, if you have S to be a fraction S of the plot, you do not use S to be explicit coordinate units. Right? It's a different. Don't use the same variable. Don't use the same name for these two things.
Oh, I see. Well, this is presumably V6 documentation that you wrote.
I know I didn't write this.
No, it may have been
like Teo or someone.
No, it may have been John or Roger working with somebody that wasn't me. I forget who it was.
So we can blame Ulysses.
No, I don't. I'm sure it wasn't Ulysses.
Okay. In any case, okay. So look, there are things. What else is there that needs left, right, etc. Segregation?
All of the frame, so frame style, those sorts of things.
We already know that. I'm asking for the ones that we don't already know.
Plot range padding, image padding. I'm thinking, whether it's useful to have it for something like plot range or image size, but I don't.
Probably not. Why isn't this linked to a guide page? Again, something to fix, please. A guide page about just about graphics options. It's weird. Why the heck isn't this linked? Why aren't all these things linked? By the way, this is an example. Clipping style is an example of something that could have top, bottom, etc. Right? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, it could.
So it should. Okay, finally we get that. Why that wasn't linked from the other ones, I have no idea.
Because
you didn't do it, so let's do it. Okay.
No, these are the specific ones. These are not general graphics options, which is probably why it wasn't linked to that.
Well, there were other things that should have been linked to. So let's just do it. You can get it right. I'm sure there are a bunch of things with mesh that have. Okay, so my question is, all this level of detail that we've now got options for in Axis Object, are there other things where we are going to want to add that level of detail? Or is this a special case? If it's a special case, we should make these symbols as we have in Axis Object, and we should just make them available at all levels. If it isn't a special case, if we're going to find out that we keep on wanting to add another boatload of 20 symbols to control some detail about contours or something, then we should have a different mechanism.
I think the set of controls will increase over time.
that's
I
not a
mean,
good
so
answer.
certainly the left, right, top, bottom is something that, right, and that also even applies to like not graphics, like frame margins, right? That's a thing that
Yes.
affects cells and whatnot.
Yes.
Right. The 17 sub options to axis object. I mean, obviously Brett would have better insight than I, but I'm not sure there is something beyond ticks and frame ticks.
Yeah, I mean, you could imagine things where the axis is being, I mean, but where it has some weird haloing effect and so on.
Right.
But I kind of feel like those are, I mean,
right, like frame label, right? There is a frame label, is there not?
Yes, there is. I use it all the time.
Right. And so frame label is another thing that would take, the left, right, sort of thing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but
the question is frame label. If the frame label is on the inside in a like in this case here, where you're putting things inside and it's all black. See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Then you might want haloing for those things. And there are weird options like that. All right, look. I think the thing we should do is clean up the options that we've defined for. See, I don't know how to do this for because we've got both frame ticks and ticks. And we definitely don't want to replicate all the options. But you could have both frame ticks and an axis in the middle.
Right. I mean, and that's one of the things that I want to be able to do is, I mean, right now, if you have a frame and you have an axis, the axis never gets ticks. There's no way to do it.
Well, you could
even
use
if you don't
axis
have
object.
frame ticks on the frame or whatever.
No, I understand, but you could
Yeah.
use axis object.
Yes.
Yes, I think I ran into that, 18 years ago, and I was super annoyed. Which sort of suggests that, I mean, I don't know that. I mean, I suppose there are arguments for and against it being an association, but yeah, I mean, I think it could just as easily be a list of rules. And then we reuse these option names in both frame ticks and in ticks.
Well, or we have an association with string names. And then we basically redo axis object to use the same thing. See what I'm saying? And then we basically have that be our way of doing micro detailed. So I mean, like this, horizontal, vertical. Why are those strings not symbols like left and right?
Right.
Seems wrong to me.
Well, that's something else, right? This is about where to stick the overall axis, right?
No, I understand that. I understand. I'm just saying that it's hard to remember what's a symbol, what's a string.
I see.
Okay, so let's look at the overall syntax. Scale specified by scale. Why is scale picked out?
Where?
Scale.
The second argument.
Because an axis object is, I mean, there's a specification for where the curve is that constitutes the axis.
Yep.
And there's a specification for how you want numbers mapped onto that.
Okay, and where's the
right? So that's like logarithmic, I presume, scale.
Or I mean, it's not even the logarithmic part. It's just the at 0, 0, it's 7, and at 1, 0, it's 14 or whatever.
All right. Okay, fine. And right now, everything is an option in terms of all the details, right?
Yes.
Now, it could be a third argument here that is an association. And we could put these things, all these details of, the haloing of the ticks and all that kind of thing. We could put all that stuff in string keyed things.
We could.
However, there are some things here, like label style and so on. Well, that wouldn't necessarily be, know,
Right. I mean, we have multiple styles, so we can't just reduce it down to style.
no, I understand that,
Yeah.
but I'm saying, look, ticks, I don't understand this. I mean, ticks,
That is, they're primarily for sort of legacy. You know, if you have an old school list of lists, you know, tick specification,
okay,
you
all right.
can use
Look,
it.
okay, we got a binary decision to make here. We're either going for, you know, an association with string names, or we're going for a bunch of new symbol options. I tend to think the first thing is more scalable and a better idea. Itai, what do you think?
I agree that sort of in general, you know, having an association with string names is more scalable. The one question is, and I have a sense of what the answer to this question is, but I'd like Brett's opinion. The question is, do you ever want to like call set options on access object and set defaults? Because that's not something you can really easily do with an association third
Well, you could
argument.
set options oh, I see what you're saying. For access object.
Yes.
Oh, by the time you're doing
that seems like a horrible idea.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, it's like calling set options on graphics
just a
box
bad
or
idea.
something.
Right.
It's or graphics even.
All right. So I think we're going for the string names. We're going to remove these or legacify them. Go to string names for everything. And then we're going to have an association here where frame ticks can be in association with a bunch of string names in it. And the outer level of that could be a left, right, etc. Although I don't know how that's going to work. If you want global specifications for all frame ticks are this, but then the left frame ticks are that. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Well, I think there was like an all and then a subdivision.
Right. I mean, so there was the all, and I was thinking earlier today that, I mean, actually there are, you know, like, you know, the base style, you know, type things that.
I think this is a not totally impossible syntax. A list which contains an association as an element, and then left arrow, right arrow, whatever.
So the first one is the all case.
Yeah, I mean it's which can degenerate into just purely this. But I also think that once you're inside there, I mean I'm not sure. We have to look this through. So tick length arrow, and then maybe we allow this possibility as well.
Yeah, maybe.
And we allow it the either way around. So you can either put this on the outside or you can put it on the inside. Because I don't think we care which one it is, really.
I don't know. So here's a question. I don't know the answer off the top of my head. I don't know if anybody here has the answer off the top of their head. In terms of auto-completion, on the right-hand side of association keys.
We can do it. I mean, if we can't do it now, we'll figure out how to do it. We can do it.
Can you do it if the left-hand side's a string name?
We can do it. Yes.
Okay, I'm just curious as to why.
I don't know whether that's already been built out, but absolutely, that's the kind of thing we can build out.
I mean, if we already have symbols for some of these, I'm not sure why we would want to make them obsolete and
we want to
for
make
string length
for consistency. So people can remember. So they're not searching, is it a symbol or a string? And this one doesn't happen to have a symbol version and that one does. We just don't want to do it. It was a mistake. The design was a mistake and we should back it out. And it is only experimental here. And we'll continue to support these, but we shouldn't document them. I mean, that's the issue is, are we going to do this thing where we have a boatload of just named options? Or are we going to do this? We just talked about this. I think we should do this. I think we should make a design based on this. I think it gives us a lot more freedom, gives us the ability to add some weird, minority, kinds of things.
Right.
Like,
If we have
haloing.
something that we want just for frame, but not access
Stephen
object in
mode
general.
goes to true.
Yeah, for example, right. Some really weird thing, like suppress trailing dots or something.
Right.
We just don't want that but it's okay to have that as a string, as a key in the association. I also think it's nice to be able to pick up one of these associations. For example, in a bunch of the styling stuff that I've been doing with themes and so on, this is a good convenient thing to be able to pick up in one go. All right, so look, can you get together, propose design, go find all the places where we can use this kind of approach, whether it's plot range padding, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Imagine that there will be some options that will be obsoleted. Rotate label might be obsoleted. I'm not sure.
There's an example of it. Actually, no, rotate label.
Okay,
There's an
doesn't
example
matter.
of rotated labels below, but it's not rotate label, I don't think. I think it's.
Yeah, I mean, I think vertical and horizontal we should consider making into symbols. Okay.
I mean, they may be symbols now. I don't think they were, at the time that.
They seem to be.
Yeah.
We now control the vertical and the horizontal.
Is this a CRT?
Yeah, this is an outer limits reference.
Well,
yes.
Not even documented. So let's look into that, please. I think we got a path here.
Okay.
Okay.
This seems like a very complicated topic.
Yeah, I don't think we can fit this into 4 minutes.
No.
We could potentially start talking about Snap
we can move this to LCC and have this conversation next week if people want.
Yes, I think it'll be nice. I think this is an important thing. Okay, let's talk about Snap, which might just be a snap.
Yeah, I mean, so we talked about this a couple of times. In looking at this, Jose and I have talked a couple of times, and I think Danny started looking, there's basically two competing approaches for what you want the second argument to be. Do you want it to be a tolerance, or do you want it to be a number of digits? I think there's a case for both versions, so we kind of just have a toy implementation of both, and then there's also the question of, for the number of digits and tolerance, are we using accuracy or are we using precision?
Okay, first of all, we have an option named tolerance. Therefore, I tend to think that snapping to digits, what am I saying? No, I don't know what I'm talking about. This is more useful, I think, because digits are very, digits somehow are very fragile. You multiply the number by 10, the digits mean something different, so to speak. Whereas the tolerance, I mean, with round, for example, we are using tolerance, right?
Right. Yeah.
Sure.
The tolerance-based version would be like round, floor, etc.
I think this is a 2x2 choice. It's tolerance versus digits, and it's also relative versus absolute.
Okay.
Right. So what's the difference then between snap and round? Remind me, please.
Snap will only fire if you are. It's basically, the intention is to coerce it to integers. At least in the tolerance-based approach was, if I have a number, it's basically
it's
chop,
like
but
right. It's like
integers.
yes, right. Thank you. I was being dense.
Okay, so here, one possibility is you say, okay, one question is what's the snap grid?
Yeah.
And the other question is what's the catchment area for snapping?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
I think the obvious, okay, I don't think it's machine epsilon. It's not the default You know, the default is
Oh,
X.
definitely not.
Yeah. So the default version I had toyed in here was, 10 to the
-6.
-6. We
I
could
mean,
do a lower tolerance for basically the print precision that we usually
Okay,
use.
so if the first argument here is the grid, I'm a little confused. If we specify the grid, like 1 means integers, I mean, that seems convenient because I can imagine wanting to use 100 there or something like this. So that's the grid. And the second question is the catchment area, right?
right. Yeah.
A default could be the half the grid so that we ensure that everything snaps.
That's an interesting idea. That's an interesting idea. I mean, why is that different from round?
Yeah, that was
It's
good.
not. It's not, but it's not terrible for if you have to do something by default.
I mean,
well, or we
so-
could have 10 to the -5 or 10 to the -6 by default.
We
why?
could.
What? I mean,
Why don't we have a
why?
multiple of the snap grid distance? In other words, if the grid is 10, have 10 to the -6 of 10.
Why isn't it 10 to the -10 like chop?
No, it could be. I didn't know
That's
that
what
was
we'd
what
initially
it was.
proposed, and I think the general consensus, the general concern there was that that was too tight of a tolerance.
Okay, but whatever the thing is, if the default is some fixed number like 10 to the -6 times the grid.
Right. So basically a relative tolerance in Jose's terminology.
Yes. But I think this is the right, I think, if I'm not missing something, this is
Makes
the
that,
right.
I mean, that certainly makes sense to me.
So it's snap and then the grid and then snap. The default will be snap to integers with 10 to the -6 tolerance.
What if I want to snap to odd integers?
2.
Then,
But you have to be able to specify a starting point.
right. Yeah, we'd need a list in the second argument or some such.
Why not give? Yeah, the obvious thing to do would be the start.
I know. I
In the
think
step-
general
I
case
feel
would be
it should be
start.
step and start, right? It's like XX not. At least that's my feeling. But
Oh, I see what you're saying. So X and X0. That's not terrible. Or DX and X0.
mhm.
Because the assumption is it's going to be on the whole real line.
Yep.
I don't think we're dealing with complex snappery. That's not terrible.
Okay, yeah.
I have another meeting I need to go to.
Yeah, I also need to go. So, all right, we achieved some things here. I think we got a direction. And what is the default? Sandra is commenting about something to do with chop here. What is the default again for chop?
10 to the -10 for chop.
Yeah.
Yeah. We are going to have to return to snap though.
Yeah, we can start prototyping with this spec and kind of see where we're
let's
at.
prototype with the spec and see what happens.
Okay.
Notice that this works on complex numbers as well. And that seems relevant because, well, for complex numbers, it's relevant because, it removes, microscopic imaginary parts. This is probably less important for that. All right, gotta go. See you guys later.
Right, thanks a lot.
Bye.